Hi, here I have another video about the frequency central Waverunner for you. Sometimes when I patch up the Waverunner, I notice some weird behavior. And by trying to hunt down the cause of this weird behavior, I found that which settings it occurs, but I haven't really found an explanation as to why it happens. So I thought it would be interesting to make a little video about it. And if you recognize this weird behavior, please leave a comment, and no, you're not the only one experiencing it. So let's get started. In this setup, Waverunner is synced to a clock coming from Pamela, and it's the same clock that's triggering the kick drum. Waverunner should stay at the same frequency because it's clock synchronized, but as you can hear, the frequency changes. You can also see by the changing tempo of the blinking LED light here that there's something happening to the frequency of the Waverunner. This behavior only seems to occur when there's a signal going into the level input. Right now, the bottom trace on zero scope is an LFO coming from the zone BF, and it's attenuating the Waverunner. But by doing so, there's something happening with the frequency. Let me pull out the sync signal that's been syncing the Waverunner. For some reason, it's not happening and there's no sync signal coming in. So I guess it has something to do with how Waverunner calculates the tempo from the incoming triggers. When I remove the LFO going into the level input, you can see how Waverunner syncs to the clock perfectly. Let me change the clock to demonstrate. At the moment, it's a clock at 90 BPM. Now I changed it to 120 BPM, and as you can see and hear, Waverunner follows it perfectly. But whenever I connect something to the level input, it starts acting strange again, as you can see by the blinking light changing tempo. When I change the source coming into the level input to an output of mats, right now I'm using channel 2 on mats, which can give me an offset of about 10 volts. As you can see, the bottom trace of zero scope when I turn the offset to 0, there's nothing coming out of Waverunner. When I turn it up, it starts opening Waverunner. Whenever I exceed, I think 5 volts, you'll see how it changes the behavior of Waverunner. So here it syncs normally again, then I turn it up past 5 volts and it starts acting weird. Now when I turn the signal being sent into the level input below 0, so now I'm going below 0 with channel 2 of METs. You can't hear anything because Waverunner isn't sending anything out, because it's attenuated below 0 and it doesn't go below 0. It's a unipolar VCA built into Waverunner. But you can see by the flashing LED how something weird is happening to the internal tempo of Waverunner. Now I have removed the sync trigger, so Waverunner is free running. But when I turn the offset I'm sending into the level input coming from METs channel 2, when I turn it down, the amplitude of Waverunner will go down, but you'll notice how the frequency of the oscillations increase. Let me remove the kick drum. So I'm turning it up again. It behaves normally. When I turn it down, frequency of the oscillations go up. And when I turn it below 0, just watch the LED. It goes faster and faster. So there's something going on internally which I don't quite understand. Now when I choose channel 3 of METs, which only sends out a maximum of 5 volts, for some reason it's not doing the weird thing. When I turn it below 0, it still increases its frequency, so I don't know, I guess it's unintended behavior, because you're not supposed to send in negative signals or anything above 5 volts. As I was playing around with the noise wave of Waverunner, I noticed some strange behavior too. When I turn the distort knob to the middle position, the noise coming out is bipolar. When I turn the frequency up, it gets denser and denser, just as you might expect. But at the last quarter of a turn, you'll notice on the scope, and you can hear it as well, how the amplitude suddenly drops. So it's not the last quarter, it's really right at the end of the knob. Now when I turn the distort knob to the right, the noise being generated becomes positive. So essentially the wave creates bits on or off, which can be really useful for randomly triggering events in your system. But you'll see when I turn up the frequency, the bits get denser right at the end. The effect of the distort knob is gone. The position of the distort knob does not influence the outcoming wave at all at the very end of the frequency range. I can even multiply this. You but it really doesn't change anything. Let me try the sample and hold or the stepped random voltage. And let's see if that behaves the same. So with the distort knob to the left until the center, it's just a bipolar randomly stepped wave. When I start turning the distort knob to the right, the wave becomes just a random gate. Let me change up my cables a little bit, because right now we're actually listening to the audio coming out of Waverunner. So here is a nice sample and hold resonating filter for you. Now, when I turn the distort knob to the right, the wave turns into random gates. And I can increase the frequency. But unlike the noise wave, the distort setting actually holds up even at the highest frequencies. Now, the noise, you can see on the scope and you can hear it too. So that's some weird behavior from the frequency central Waverunner. I don't know if it's intended or not. I'll try to contact Rick from Frequency Central. I'm sure he'll send me an explanation why this is happening, and I'll add it to the video. And this behavior is certainly weird. It really doesn't change the fact that the Frequency Central Waverunner is a really useful LFO module to have. And sometimes this quirky behavior is exactly what I'm looking for in a patch. So I'm really welcoming this, but I just don't really understand why it's happening. I hope you learned something in this video, and thanks for watching.